Hey people, my last 4 movies are in this folder called Abaddon. While I was reading this Psalm 94 in the Hebrew and some extras out of the Greek. And if you haven't watched my movies, it's going to be the most educational thing you ever seen. But the first 16 lines of it was talking about the relationship of the sun and the moon. And then on the 17th line, it started talking about affinity with Jupiter, of the soak in the dementia. You know, this is the PSI, the psi, the P's silent. This is the dementia, and it's, you know, doom, and it's also dumb. When somebody's deaf and dumb, they don't talk in silence, and they're soaking in dementia. And so it talked about the relationship between the sun and the moon, and then here it started talking about affinity with Jupiter, or a plant under Jupiter, to go and extract, to emit, that emits, you know, from the immortal, the immortum, their glitches, decay is a Dane. And it was talking about the immortal drink here that they extract out of the plants. And then it talked about, you know, the roofie that was engrave it in, whom kisses when sigh, the sigh, the psych, spirit, mind. And so I'm going to get these last 3 lines, just last 4 lines in this movie. I think it ends at 23 here. And if you're not getting this, the best place to start is this folder. I'll leave the links to both these at the end when it says first. In these first couple movies, I slow it down and show you how this language works. And so I was trying to figure out, you know, how they just divided up from talking about the moon and then going into a search for medicinal plants. And here was that separator right here, was the Polyon, the workers of iniquity, going out searching. And you see this of iniquity, you know, it's just spelled with a A-W-N here. And they totally changed the spelling, you know, here. It's the only thing it's got in common is it's got a W in it. You know, now it's the E-U-U-T. And so all these old writers, they were searching for the elixir of immortality. And they was tripping on some badass drugs when they wrote this. And it says it right here, you know, shall have fellowship with you, the throne of iniquity, which devises evil by law. And you can see the law, you know, is usually they say it's the Torah is the law. The Torah means the law in Hebrew. They had to grab another word for the holy fuck. You know, O-L-Y-Q-H backwards, the holy fuck of, you know, the dot above the H is an O, and then a Q or a F, the holy fuck of. And that's when you try this immortal elixir, that's what you say, holy fuck, I just killed myself. But you know, this word in the Latin that in hoc signa comes from, and so they'll tell you in Latin hoc just means this, you know, in hoc signa, in this sign. But this is going to give you a better definition of what hoc really means. So this word, you know, shall have fellowship with you. If you run your cursor over this number, you'll see it means to unite, join, bind together, to be joined, coupled. And so that gives you the clue that this says the H-I-C-H-N, and it's the hitchin rock. The hitch, the B is N, and then R-K, and the hitchin rock. And so, you know, cowboys, they use a hitching post to tie their horse off when they went into the saloon. But the hitching rock looks more like this, you know. It's called the hitching post of the sun. And this is old ancient Mayan shit here. They ain't figure out what it was, you know. Because if you're going to tie something off to this, you know, it would have to be a blimp. You know, this is up on top of the mountains. You know, it's sitting up here at Machu Picchu. You know, over here where these old ancient people used to get tripping on some drugs and then start moving and melting stone with their mind. You know, the hitching rock throne. And so these vowel points in here, they're saying this is a K-A-S-E. And then the A-E becomes the E-S. And then with this first U, it's ESU, issue. And you run your cursor over this, and you see the throne could be a seat, a stool. But case is a ancient word that means to hold. Coming from old French, the case, to hold. And so the hitching rock case issue of Tixer, the issue of Tixer, the Tixer time. You see this, they give this desire, to join the seat of desire is the hitching rock case issue of Tixer, Amel, holy fuck of. And so, the hitching rock holds the issue of Tixer, the issue of time. Amel is not evil. Amel is a mistake. Amel is a statement, a belief statement that is actually false. And it's not just a mistake, but it's the mistake of holy fuck. And I swear to God, when you take that trip, that's exactly what you say. Oh shit, I just made a huge Amel. I made the Amel of holy fuck of. The in hoc signa. The hitching rock case issue of Tixer. The issue of Tixer. It's all one big word talking about the place of the hitching rock. The hitching rock case of issue of Tixer. Amel holy fuck of. The mistake of holy fuck. And they gathered together against the life of the righteousness in blood, innocent condemned. And so this is a IG, and then a dot there gives you O before the W, and it's the ego. And the ego would in 2 D's, no other marks, just one in the middle, means 2 D's. And the ego would do all. The ego would do all, and that's what this drug does. It works on your ego. It separates you from your ego, which is a good thing. And so this life, it's reading backwards, and that's where this is coming from. It's the span push. And so this is talking about a long life in your elder years. You done push through the span, the distance, the length of it. Not the life, but the length of life. And then X, is TS, it's. And the dot and the D tells me pick up underneath here is an A and a V and an I. And ego would do all span push. It's Davy Codomenify, the Codomenify. And so a Davy, D-A-V-Y, is a legally binding statement, an oath. I do swear to defend God and country. A span push, it's Davy, it's oath, Cudum, Q-U-D-M, Cudum, could them. And Cudum Infy is the opposite of DeFi. And so in Fi, Fidel, Fi, somebody you can infide and somebody you can trust. And Cudum Infy, and then YRS, in fires, Cudum in fires. The innocent condemn is could in fires, U, Y-O-U. But it has a dot above this S over here. Tell me to pick up this A-V, and it's could have been fires of A-V, of you. Could have been fires of you. And the ego would do all, that's the name of the drug. It's what it does. It works on the ego. The ego would do all, span push of the length of life, the span push. It's Davy, it's oath. Could 'em in fires of you. Could 'em in fires of you. And so this but has been, this is, the word the first time, and God said, let there be, yee-haw, let there be, and there was. This is the word, and there was. And you don't see this often, but this mark up top, you see it underneath often. It's a directional marking. And so it's telling you that when I'm reading it through the first time to use a directional marking. So, it's usually wage or why is how or who. and EY is they. And so what it says is wage. Every time you see a word like this with that mark here, you're just doubling that word up because you're reading it, the VIE and then I, is how they, and then again VIE, and then back this way I, and how they wage, how they work you, how they wage you the lie. And so the lie is a position, and of the message, and then underneath, the dot says pick up the AV, the of in. How they wage you the lie of message of in. Valo, VALO. And then the OE means there's a LEY here. You don't see the L. It's created by the OE, the odal. In veil of, and how they wage you the lie of message of in veil of lay. Elyxir. This is the Elyxir, and that is the rock. And so the lex means the words used in the subject that you're talking about, the kind of words, what those words mean when you're talking about this subject. And it's the Elyxir, the words used where Messiah, and Messiah is where your real word Messiah comes from, and it means, from, divide, the secret work. It's the Messiah. Words have different meanings depending on what you're talking about. And it's the Elyxir Messiah. And how they wage you the lie of message of in veil of lay, the Elyxir. It's veiled, it's covered. It's the hidden knowledge, the veil of lay, Elyxir Messiah. So this word is, vision. When you just reading the letters, it's a VISN. It's the vision. But I'm reading the upper markings here, and it's the VI, and the dot tells me to pick up this A down here. And so it's the via, it's the way. And then SEV. And it's the via sieve, the way to sieve is, we say receive, but it's actually sieve. Receive is only if you had it and lost it and you got it back again, then you received it. But if it's just the first time you get it, it's sieve, SCV. And via sieve, holy them, and then backwards. And it's M from they, LOV, the loves ya. From they loves ya, YA. From they loves ya, and then WAT. From they loves ya, what the men and OV of own from. The Apollyon iniquities. And so this should be plural iniquities here. But it's via sieve, the way to receive holy them. From they loves ya, what men of own from, and brought from, BROT, and brought 'em, and brought from, brought 'em, and then ITS. It's mit, it's with, and then mix, because they never double up words. Shall cut them off, shall cut them off. They never double up words. And you see all the different markings here. It reads different ways and different passes through. But the men of brought from its mit, its with, mix with them. And from its mix with them, you halo, HALO, the halo, that thing over your head that's glowing. And you halo lay, LEY, the L, you don't see it. It comes from between the O and the E. You put an L between it. And your halo lay new, a new halo. The via, the way sieve holy them. From they loves ye what men of own. From wrought is to shaped, of wrought from its with the mix with 'em, you halo lay new. So I did this the ego of the righteous blood one time, couple times, and yeah, I look like a Southern Baptist in a black church, and yeah, you could feel the love, and I could see how the people that did this were the creators of the ancient Christian church, and they were teaching the people better ways, and the ideas of that church had got hijacked, by the XR, by the Chiros, the ones which devised, and the Chiros have hijacked the churches, and everybody forgot, they put all this fake meaning on these writings that were all created by people who had done tripped balls. And I don't even know if it's possible to read this without tripping your balls off first, and to better understand what you do. You better understand death, and that helps you to understand life, and that's the elixir of life. That's what it's all about. And all the ancient writers, that talked about it, they was looking for the elixir of life, and when they found it, it helps you to understand death, and death is the elixir of life.
I am the Antichrist, and I approve of this message.